Hey strong people, Kalle Beck here from StartingStrongman.com, and Hafþór Björnsson just did his first powerlifting meet in about 7 years. Breaking it down, it was called Thor's Powerlifting Challenge. It was held at some sort of fitness expo in Iceland, and it looked like a great success. There was, a lot of people said he would break the all-time world record in powerlifting. I thought he was capable of it, and I thought he was going to go for it, and that's exactly what he did. He came up a little short, still in 1,100 kilogram total, which I believe is the 8th highest of all time, and would have broke Don Reinhardt's world record, which stood for the all-time world record, which stood from like 77 until just 5 years ago or so. And you knew he was going to go for it, and I think the questions were, could he get depth on his squat and work with the commands, and people were worried because it's in his backyard, the stupidest thing I ever heard, that he was going to get gift lifts, because usually it's been a trend in powerlifting where somebody who's going for records kind of knows, like the meet promoter goes under their federation, and they're pretty much just given, they're more... They're more lenient on what depth is in the squat, but it looked like the judging was extremely strict. Borisheko was the head referee, the one that sits in the front. There's two on the sides. His first squat attempt, he opened at 420 kilos, and he got a white from the head and then two reds from the side for depth. Then he went up to jumped another 20 kilos to 440. All 3 white lights on that. Looked great. It's it's interesting to look at it because there's not. I think the first was the deepest. Second was just a hair higher, maybe slightly different. The third looked maybe just a little bit higher than the second. It's really hard to tell. What's interesting on that is that he got 2 reds, and one of the whites was from a side judge, which means they obviously thought it was good on depth, and the other side judge said no. And the front judge, who normally doesn't check depth, I don't know exactly what he was called for, gave it a red. Usually that would be for some sort of command, but they can give it a red for depth as well. And it was Borisheko, so you want to, give him the benefit of the doubt, being a powerlifting legend. But yeah, ended up with 440 kilos, almost bombed out of the meet, which would have been very unfortunate. And I think the most surprising was his bench. We didn't see much bench training from Hafþór in training. I think he went up to 230-ish kilos in travel, and it wasn't paused or anything. He held really, really long pauses on all his attempts, going 235, 245, and 250, which would be, I think, almost 20-pound at least PR on his last bench. All white lights on every attempt. They look smooth. Little hiccup on the way down on the first. He just doesn't. You can tell he's not as familiar with doing a competition style bench press, coming over as far as he is, doing a deadlift and a squat. It looks like he's just having a little bit of trouble finding the bar path, but ends up with a subtotal of 690 going into the dead. So he would have had to pull pretty much almost 1,000 pounds to break the record. It seems possible, but it's not even so much that he doesn't have the grip strength. It's just a different type of grip strength when you're doing over-under on a bar compared to doing a farmer's walk. And it's just, basically, you get good. There's carryover to everything, but you get good at what you're used to doing, right? So I think even a deadlift bar probably feels extremely small in his hands. And it definitely looks that way. So he said he was going to open up at 405 or 410 kilos going into it. He ended up opening up at 390. Looked like an empty bar. Went up to 410. Again, just looks like an empty bar. You can see it doing over-under. It looks like throwing him off a little bit. Looks like there's more of the weight going to the underside. And then goes to 430, and it blasted off the ground. So I'm going to watch it real quick just to go through real quick. So it just blasts off the ground, and about right at mid-knee, he starts to lose it in his left grip. And I think it's very good that he dropped it, because trying to regrip something like that is exactly how bicep tears happen. And if Hafþór tore his bicep after doing, 10 years pretty much of strongman on a deadlift for a powerlifting meet. That would be quite a shame. Ends up with 1,100 pound total, 2,425 pounds, which is very good. If he got that last deadlift and his third squat, I think that puts him right at the all-time world record in powerlifting. So that was definitely what he was gunning for. If that last squat had one more, the 460 kilo squat had one more white light, that ties him for the highest total of all year, and I think that's what won Big Dogs. So he's right up there, one of the strongest powerlifters in the world. This is on 5 weeks of preparation for this contest, specifically training for it after a very long and heavy strongman season, doing a secondary sport. So it's incredible, and just caps off a great year in strength. A little shy, but of the all-time world record. But I think he definitely showed he's capable. He's just as capable of it as anyone. Which is, it's held by Andrei Milanichev. What I think is the most important takeaway from this powerlifting meet is not if he was going to break the record, not if he did break the record, not how close he got, not if he can. It's that Hafþór Björnsson, he gets a lot of discredit from people because he is so big and tall, and he's from Iceland, and he's Thor, and he's the mountain. People just think, of course he's world's strongest man, of course he's almost breaking this world, powerlifting records. But I remember when he first busted on the scene, he had so much raw potential, and he just looked like he was destined to be world's strongest man, but he couldn't quite get there and was second and third. I think he's on the podium more times than anyone else in World's Strongest Man without winning, and what held him back was his static strength. And for years, people have been saying if Hafþór only brought up his static strength, he'd be unbeatable in strongman, and that's what we've seen this year, pretty much since 2012, when he lost out on, the World's Strongest Man title because of the squat. He killed every other event. This was when it was in LA, and he lost out because he didn't have. He played so poorly. He lost a lot of points in the squat. A bunch of different people beat him in that, and he just couldn't make up that deficit. And since that point, he's put so much focus on doing the basic power lifts and putting it into his strongman training that he's became literally one of the most all-around, probably strongest static lifter in the world this year. If you combine what he's done in the strongman competitions and now this powerlifting meet, I'd like to see someone argue that anyone stronger statically this year, and who could possibly be statically stronger going into 2019. And that was his weak point years ago. There's been so many tall, athletic strongmen over the years that are like, oh, if you could just do that, they could just bring up their deadlift, they'd win World's Strongest Man, they'd win all these titles, and most of them never do. They might improve it a little bit, but not to the point that Thor has. That's taken hard work. You can't take that away from him. You can talk about genetics, you can talk about anything else. That's something that you've never really seen too many people do before, or anyone, just to really transform themselves as what's their strengths and weaknesses. And congratulations to Hafþór on a good meet. It looks like he's going to do a little bit more powerlifting in 2019, and it's just how lucky are we that we live in a day and age that there's so many cool things going on in strength sports that we get to talk about and discuss, and hopefully inspire some of your own training. And it's people like this are kind of show us what's possible, which is incredible. I'm Kalle Beck. Thanks for watching. You can go to store.startingstrongman.com for all your strongman training needs. Of course, check out startingstrongman.com. For your #1 source on information for strongman. Follow me at LetKaleLift and follow at Starting Strongman.